Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Technomosity, dedicated to providing you with information on technology. My name is JP, and today we'll be looking at the different parts or components that a personal computer or PC is composed of. Now, I know the term personal can be a bit of sort of a catch-all term regarding computers, referring to, not just desktop computers, but also mobile computers like smartphones or tablets. But for this episode, we're going to be focused specifically on desktop computers and the common components you'd have for using one. And on that note, we're going to be referring to more modern desktop computers, as in computers you'd find today, and maybe making reference to parts used by those within the past 25 to 30 years, give or take. Since the general build of desktop computers has remained largely the same over this time period, with some alterations, if you will. Also, I'm sorry if my voice is a little nasally right now. I'm just having some allergy problems, so if it gets annoying during the episode here, I apologize, but we're just gonna get this underway. This is also going to be a bit more of a general overview, so I won't be going into too much depth and may end up making several different episodes dedicated to these things. So to start off, you have what's called the case or tower of the computer. This is essentially the computer's protective shield over a lot of the parts within it. It's what keeps them all safe and securely attached so that nothing shifts out of place. Now, getting more inside the case, you've got several different parts, each with different functions. But I'm going to first mention what powers all these parts in the first place, and that is called the power supply. Now, this is probably pretty self-explanatory. It's what's used to power your system. So, of course, without the power supply, all the other parts are useless, and you wouldn't be able to execute any commands, and the computer wouldn't be able to carry out any sort of processes. Next up, there is one very important area of your computer, which is crucial and pretty much central to all of these processes or functions being carried out in your computer. And that is called the motherboard. Now, I may make a separate video detailing the different parts of a motherboard more in depth, but I will say that the motherboard is where a lot of the really critical components are located. These components are what's used to perform a lot of very important functions within your computer, including the CPU, or Central Processing Unit for short. What's essentially considered the brain of the computer, which is responsible for retrieving, decoding, and executing program instructions, and this is the CPU, and also performing both mathematical and logical calculations. In the motherboard, there's also memory, which is where information is stored. Memory comes in various types. Two primary types being RAM, or random access memory, and ROM, or read-only memory. Then in the motherboard, you have the BIOS, short for Basic Input-Output System, which allows you to access and set up your system at its most basic level. So when you power your computer on, your system is using the BIOS to set everything up so you can be ready to go. Then there's the Cmos, or Complementary Metal Oxide Semiconductor. This is where all the settings and configurations are stored. So say, for instance, you wanted to adjust some settings for when you boot your computer, like the boot device order. Well, the Cmos is responsible for managing that. So in all, as I mentioned, the motherboard is a very, very important part of the computer, probably the most important, of course, aside from the power supply, which is, the motherboard and the rest of the computer basically run off of. So without the motherboard, a computer would not be able to perform any kind of functions or computations whatsoever, period. Next up, we have the graphics card or video card. This device is what we use to essentially display images. This is often done through the card's GPU, or graphics processing unit. Now, the GPU may also appear as a component on the motherboard or even integrated into the motherboard's CPU. However, this can also be its own independent part. Now, how we display these images and everything else on our computer is through the monitor. This is that big screen device separate from the computer's case that looks like a TV that displays things like your home menu with all the icons located on it, various system information about your computer, or if you want to surf the internet to watch your favorite, YouTube video, this is what you'd look at to do so. Along with that, you usually have a set of speakers to listen to sound on your computer, whether it's for that YouTube video you like so much or even to stream music. Your computer generally interprets audio signals in a file by sampling either analog or digital signals and converting them into sound waves for the user to hear. So whether you're listening to music or creating it singing, like Kumbaya through using a built-in or connected microphone to the computer, the speakers produces those interpreted signals to be heard. Now, to search things on the computer, input commands into it. You have the keyboard and mouse. The keyboard lets you input characters like letters or numbers, and there are also various key combinations you can enter, such as holding the Alt key, then pressing F4, which will close a window or application, or pressing and holding the Control, Shift, and Escape keys, which will bring up the Task Manager. The mouse allows you to guide a pointer around the screen of the monitor and click on various icons to carry out specific tasks. Okay, now say you see something you like on a web page and you want to save it for later, or maybe you're using a computer at work and have a very important document to print out to hand into your boss at work. Well, you can do that through the use of the printer. This part sometimes might not even be directly connected to your computer. They can either be connected through your computer via, say, a USB cable, or they could be wireless and be something you can use from 50 feet away, all the way across the room, or even on the other side of your company's office, or hell, even all the way on the other side of the building. The printer uses ink to print black and white or colored images onto blank sheets of paper. The printer takes this blank sheet, sends it through a feeder, and prints the ink onto the sheet on its way out. And lastly, we're going to go back into the case here. You have what's called your hard drive. This is what can be used to store any data, such as images, videos, text documents, and any other file you created or downloaded. These devices also store files on your computer's operating system to use, or also applications like software programs such as, Audacity, FL Studio, or Adobe Premiere, just to name a few. And that about sums it up. Of course, these parts may be different depending on your build or how your computer was designed or laid out, and they may appear in different places, but these are at least some of what I believe are the most important parts of a computer, generally speaking. And that does it for this episode. Follow or subscribe to this podcast and share it with others that may like or benefit from the content provided. And stay tuned for any future content through this podcast, on YouTube, or on the Technomosity website, technomosity.com. That's TechnoMosity.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Technomosity. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode.